As part of the Together for Cohesion campaign, we have organised a final webinar to share best practices and recommendations for communicating on the European cohesion policy. Before we go into the practical insights, let's take a look back in time. The European cohesion policy, defined in the 1986 Single European Act, is fundamental to the economic and social cohesion of the EU. Its goal is to reduce disparities between the various regions and support the evolution of less developed areas. Over the years, hundreds of projects have benefited from the investments of EU regional policy programmes. Some of the key benefits are job creation, business competitiveness, economic growth, sustainable development, investments in infrastructural change and the health sector, and improvement to citizens' quality of life.
But how is the EU cohesion policy helping citizens during the crisis? The cohesion policy money that hasn't been allocated yet has been mobilised in the fight against COVID-19, together with national co-financing through the EU CRII. It is used to provide medical equipment and devices, cash flow for authorities, help for SMEs, protection for the most vulnerable, support for vital sectors, and flexibility in the use of structural funds. So what about the EU's new budget? Well, funding for cohesion programmes is to increase by €55 billion. The reviewed budget reinforces the focus on a green, digital and social Europe and supports sectors like healthcare, culture and tourism, SMEs and youth, which are the most heavily affected by the crisis. There are several obstacles you may encounter when raising awareness about the EU cohesion policy. Firstly, scepticism and populist discourses often blame the EU for regional problems. For this reason, it is very important to show all the benefits that the EU offers all member state citizens. Secondly, nation-states tend to appropriate the benefits of the cohesion policy, obscuring the importance of the EU. In addition, there is a growing tendency towards re-centralisation, with nation-states removing power from regional bodies. However, regions and cities tend to have a better understanding of how best to invest in and affect their communities. Finally, EU cohesion policy funding can easily be appropriated for other objectives. This budget insecurity can weaken the image of the cohesion policy.
So how to get your message across? When planning a communication campaign, always start by asking yourself the 4 following questions. What? Who? How? And why?
And what do you want to tell your audience? Second of all, you need to know who is your audience, who do you want to talk to? In our specific case, it's a little bit more complicated because it's a general public. It's basically everyone. For campaign, usually it's much better if you have a more specified audience, let's say by age or location or gender. It's much better because then you know the specifics of your target groups and it's better to target them with your key message. How? Meaning what channels do you want to use and what strategy do you want to take? And then it leads to the most important thing in my opinion, and it's also important for everyone doing every campaign, is why. And now you're probably thinking, oh, he's telling us some basics 101 communication stuff, and I agree with you, but you would maybe be surprised how many people don't know what they want to tell and why.
When communicating about the European cohesion policy, you will face challenges. How can you overcome these challenges?
Get to know your target group better and assess the level of knowledge. Before putting the communication material out, a press release, a key message, ask your loved ones, ask your family, ask your friends who normally have much less information on the topic if they understand what you're trying to say. Engage your target group in the campaign in the first place. So you can have an interview with some of the representatives of your target group to create some content with them directly. And it also brings kind of a personal touch to the campaign, put some emotions in it, to put emotional side on the campaign. In this case, we were trying to do it by involving some sort of stories, how the projects supported from cohesion policy before help the situations in the regions or change the situations in a way, so that there are some stories that people can better identify with.
Our challenge is to try to involve citizens and bring Europe near to them, so as to shorten distance between European institutions and European citizens. It can be done by trying to explain in simple language how much European policies can become part of everyone's daily life.
Another important thing to keep in mind is to build partnerships.
They help all the partners to improve citizens to perform their rights and to ensure their representation. They create benefit for both sides because our partnership was based on the solid joint commitment and understanding. We are all committed to joint learning. We learn from each other values, from experiences, and sharing and communicating. The partnership, connects individuals across function, location, and organization, and also creates space for learning, creativity, innovation, development, and joint practices.
Let's sum up what we've learned. Always bear in mind the importance of timely communication, standing out, and getting online.